Hello, my name is Helen Silva, and today I will be talking about fast fashion and how it negatively affects us, and why we should switch to sustainable alternatives when it comes to shopping for our clothing. So, today I would like to go into what exactly fast fashion is and how it is negatively affecting us, and what we can do in order to be more mindful and sustainable when shopping for our clothing. So, to define fast fashion, according to the article, What is Fast Fashion and How It is Destroying the Environment by Emma Seymour, fast fashion refers to a relatively new phenomenon of rapidly producing high volumes of cheap, trendy clothing that match runway and celebrity styles. In present day, trends are what typically dictate what is to be worn and what is seen as fashionable, and stylish. And we see these trends rapidly change as seasons and years change as well. However, the fashion industry sees these trends and in a need for their companies' brands to stay relevant, they produce clothing that meets the standards of these trends just as quickly as trends are being pushed out and discarded. So from this, we are able to draw a conclusion, sort of, that the reason for fast fashion and why it is so prevalent is because of our way of over consuming these products in order to meet our need to keep up with trends and the fast fashion industry. The fast fashion industry has become one of the most unethical ways of production in today's society, and as an extremely large contributor to waste and pollution issues, along with a myriad of unethical social practices to fulfill their company's needs. So the fast fashion industries need to produce these clothing in a quick manner in order to keep up with these changing trends has just created a mass amount of waste and pollution. So over 85% of clothing in a year is thrown away, including unsold and unused clothing. Not to mention, with this waste comes an overwhelming amount of CO2 emissions, greenhouse pollution, and contaminated water from the creation process of these extremely poorly made clothing pieces. So these clothing are made with cheaper alternatives such as nylon, polyester, and acrylic, which are essentially plastics, which will then take years and centuries to degrade upon creating waste that will be seen for years to come. Not only do these fast fashion companies negatively affect the environment, they are in fact creating unethical work conditions for their workers as well. In order to produce clothing as quickly as the fast fashion companies do, their clothing is produced in what we know as sweatshops. And within these sweatshops are workers who work in extremely dangerous working conditions. And in these conditions, they are exposed to toxic chemicals, poor air quality, and overcrowding, all while being given extremely low and unlivable wages with extremely long hours. So essentially, all of this is in defiance of basic labor laws. However, since it does happen outside of the country, it does get slipped under the rug a little bit. So with all of this in mind, we can see generally how bad these fast fashion companies are when producing their clothing, which is why instead of contributing to these fast fashion companies, we should be participating in more sustainable alternatives when we are looking for our clothing. So a few ways we can do that is by taking extra measures to ensure we are not participating in any unnecessary improper discarding and waste. So a few ways we can do that is one, by possibly taking care of the clothing that we do already have. So with the clothing we do have, we can take proper care of them. Each clothing item does come with a tag, and we know that it does involve proper care for each individual clothing item. And by following these proper care instructions, we would just be ensuring that we're getting the longest life of our clothing as possible, so that we're not having to discard our clothing any earlier than necessary. and also to possibly keep the clothing that we do have. We can alter our clothing to fit maybe trends that we like or can see as timeless, or even when we have stains on our clothing, we can possibly dye them or do our best to make our stains discreet in order so that we can keep wearing these clothings instead of throwing them away. And for the clothing that we don't necessarily want to keep anymore and don't see altering, we can even donate them to local thrift stores. They're always accepting donations, and it would just give your clothing a second life. Another amazing way to shop sustainably, if you do want to get new clothes, a large epidemic that's happening right now is called thrift shopping. A lot of the trends that are coming back right now do reflect on past trends, and a good place to buy these past trends is going to secondhand stores and being able to see these or being able to shop through these options. Not to mention these clothing options are even cheaper, and thrift stores are typically run by donations and everything, so a lot of their proceeds do go to very good charities. Yeah, so there's a lot of good options to be able to shop sustainably in order to not be able to participate in these very negatively affecting fast fashion companies. And I encourage you all to be able to look in these options and see how we can change our way of shopping for clothing.